Hey, so I just want to talk to you for a bit, and it might take a while, and it might be a little personal, and it might get deep at times. So if you want, you can go grab a drink, get a snack, get comfortable. I won't keep you for too long. I just wanted to get something off my chest. So I want to read you a journal entry, just to get the ball rolling, just to get started. This is from August 4th, 2020, 7:30 in the morning. The title is Life is a Struggle. I forget to think about myself so often, and I forget why. I forget why I make decisions to help myself. Sometimes it's because I think of myself as an inconvenience. Like, living my life how I want it is not what I should be doing, considering everyone is struggling right now. But I don't think it's fair to just cancel myself out. So I'm 24 and I feel bad about living my adult life. And maybe it's because I'm stuck at home. And I've been thinking about this thing about how being at home sucks you into this vortex of childhood dynamics. And because a vortex just pulls you in and you can't see anything, you can't breathe, you don't know what to do, you're kind of just stuck in that motion. At home, I am the eldest and I feel like I'm constantly giving. And I'm constantly giving out my support and my love to each and one of my family members. But the thing is that I am a very caring person. I'm starting to feel bad about giving so much. And it doesn't really make sense to me. And I guess on some level, I feel kind of like a pushover. I feel kind of like somebody's crutch. It kind of prevents me from thinking about myself and putting myself into context of the larger picture of the world. So I think that's what's been really on my mind lately. And if you want to talk about it, sit down, get comfortable. Let's talk about it. Just you and I. An honest conversation. Maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't. But it would be really nice if you could just stay tuned and listen in. When I have this feeling like I'm giving too much and maybe too much of myself, it just doesn't feel good. And I question whether or not this is love. Is this love? And if it isn't, what's making me want to keep giving anyway? I feel like maybe I'm a selfless person for the wrong reasons. And I got this idea after reading this book. I think it's called Boundaries. When to Say Yes, How to Say No. It's by 2 doctors. And there's a whole chapter about these 10 laws of boundaries, which I'll get to. I'll get to those 10 laws. The authors talk about how there's this patient that they have who has the same issue as me or has the same weird feeling as me, where they feel like they're giving too much, but they're not receiving anything, and the giving that they're doing just doesn't feel right and doesn't feel good anymore. The author says, maybe it's not love. Maybe your motivations behind doing these things aren't because you love these people. It's because you have some sort of fear, a rational fear. I felt called out. I think maybe the reason why I give too much is because I have these rational fears, and there are a multitude of them. There's a fear of making somebody angry. There's a fear of losing that loved one. There's a fear of not being a good person if you say no to this person or say no to anybody. You also get cajoled into doing these acts of service, as in you get guilted into doing these things, or you feel like you have to do it. There's a feeling of obligation. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if that's love. That just doesn't sound like love to me. We're gonna get a little bit more personal. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about boundaries is because it has to do with my family and family dynamics. I'm the eldest. I was raised to uphold all these family values and to take care of my 2 younger brothers. I never really consented to do any of these things, to be a pseudo-parent, to be a pseudo-mom to my brothers. And there were times when they were really young and they would tell me to stop butting into things. And I understood that, but for some reason I had this overwhelming feeling that I had to do it. I had the obligation to butt in and to give and say my piece. Before Corona happened, my brothers were off doing their own things. You know, they had work, my brother was in school, my parents were all out working, I was out working in the city, and then it brought us back into this house. And even though I was living with my parents, I had my own life to live, because everyone had their own lives to live too. Eventually everyone got cabin fever, and conflicts and tensions started to rise. And I found myself in the middle pretty much all of these conflicts, even though they didn't really have anything to do with me. During these conflicts, my roles started to clash, because while I was an older sister, I was also my parents' wise counsel. While I was my parents' wise counsel, I also had to be supportive of my brothers, while also remaining impartial and supportive of my parents. And at no point did anyone really ever ask me what I thought. And I didn't realize all of this until maybe a couple of weeks ago, when something came up again, and there was, right in the middle, not knowing what to do, kind of trying to throw everybody a life vest while I was drowning. The thing is that when my roles started to clash, everything that I was saying started to backfire. And my words, even though they were as impartial and as level-headed and as rational as they could be, people would use them and weaponize them against each other and against me, to the point where people would accuse me of saying things that I didn't say because they misunderstood the situation, they misunderstood what I said, and they didn't think to look at both sides. I wanted to put myself in the context of setting boundaries, because while we know about setting boundaries and drawing lines, I know of it. I don't think I ever really implemented it. I don't think I ever really drew lines with people. And I am such a pushover. I'm such a pushover. So what did I do? What did I do, right? I started to feel gross, and I started to feel mismatched and all misplaced and stuff. And so I talked to my therapist about this. And I also started reading a book. It's that book that we mentioned before. And as I was reading the book, and I was talking to my therapist, I realized that I have to draw a line. I have to set a boundary between myself and everybody in the family. Some of the fears that I was feeling was this fear of being disrespectful, or this fear of me hurting these people. I said, I do not want to be part of this conflict right now. I feel like I cannot help. I think this is something that's between this person and this person and this person and this person. And I started to do that. I started to put my foot down a lot more, and I started to reject people asking me to be their messenger for the other parties in this conflict. And it started to feel really good, actually. But before we get into how good that started to feel, I want to get back to that book, Boundaries: When to Say Yes, How to Say No. I think boundaries are important now because it is, one, you living more honestly with yourself. Two, you living more honestly with yourself in the context of your relationships with other people. And three, it is this call for mutual respect and mutual being cared for. I want to quickly talk about these 10 laws of boundaries, but I'm just going to talk about the ones that are relatable to me, just so maybe you could read the book and we could talk about the book and it'll be like a cute little book club. So let me bring up my notes. One of the first laws is the law of sowing and reaping. This is a very, very, very obvious one, but essentially it's the whole cliche of you reap what you sow what you reap. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just this notion of letting somebody reap what they sow, letting someone experience their own consequences after making such decisions or imposing such actions. I feel like oftentimes I am the fallback person, and people that I know end up going to me to clean up the mess that they make. And so their problem becomes my problem. And it's no longer their problem anymore because I'm the one taking care of it. We gotta stop doing that. We gotta let people learn and fail and try again. And we gotta let people just understand where they go wrong and where they can go right and where they can improve from here on out. The big one that I was talking about before is the law of motivation. If your giving is not leading to cheer and joy and happiness, then it's time to reevaluate, because gratitude is a call to expressing a certain freedom to let your overflowing heart release, but exercise your freedom first and service comes after. If loving is depressing you, it's probably not love. That's what the book said. And so all these things that we're doing could be motivated by something else, like underlying fears of losing love or abandonment, or another person's anger, like I mentioned before. We get guilted in trying to do these good things, and we guilt ourselves into trying to do these good things because we want to feel like a good person, but we don't want to do it out of love. And that stinks because we end up taking on their own problems, even though it's something that they haven't felt yet, or we end up taking their own feelings and it's something that they haven't been able to process. So it's very important to just sit down and really think about your motivations and make sure you're doing things for the right reasons and not out of these rational fears. There's another one called the law of activity, and essentially it's you try, you fail, you try again. And so if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and you realize it's not working, pause, don't quit, think of another angle or another way to do it and try again. Because the whole point is for us to learn and for us to grow and for us to evolve. And the last law I wanted to talk about is the law of exposure. So we exist in relation to others. Boundaries are really about our relationships with our loved ones and with anybody around us. So I'm talking about boundaries and I'm reading about boundaries, and now I want to set my own boundaries. I can't set these boundaries in my head. I have to say it out loud, and I have to tell these people, this is how I feel, this is how I want to be treated, and this is how I want to be respected and cared for. We have these boundary problems because of these fears or guilt or not being liked or this loss of love. But because of these fears, we end up having secret boundaries. We withdraw passively and quietly instead of communicating these things and instead of being on the same page with somebody. So when we have these secret boundaries, we often tend to endure someone's irresponsibility and we grow resentful, as opposed to just being honest and telling somebody how their behavior affects us and our other loved ones. And in this sense, it is okay to think selfishly. Throw away those negative notions of selfishness. If you're uncomfortable, put yourself first. Think about why you're uncomfortable and think about what you could do next. Ever since I vocalized these boundaries with my family, I've noticed a greater sense of freedom. I'm out playing tennis with Jen, I'm spending more time with Jennifer and quality time. I have more time to do YouTube stuff, to think more creatively. I feel an urge to be out of the house more often because I feel like before I was stuck in my house. Well, one, because we really shouldn't be outside, and two, because I felt like I needed to be here in case somebody or something needed me. I didn't want to miss out on something big. I feel like I know myself a little bit better and I have more clarity and I have more of a peace of mind. And when I put myself in the context of my relationship with my family, I don't feel like a caregiver, I don't feel like a wise counsel, I don't feel like a pseudo-parent. I feel like Stef. Feels nice not having to... Dookie, come sit down. Come sit. Come on. Good boy. All right. Feels nice to just be myself. Duke, you stay on the bed, okay? I'll get it for you later. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to talk to you about that. I wanted to see what you thought, how you felt. I hope you were comfortable. I hope we had a nice talk together. I think it's time for me to say bye, but let's talk about it. Write in the comments below what you think, any stories or any experiences you have with setting boundaries, any advice that you have to give me when I have to set boundaries and when I have to rethink everything and put everything into a different context. I like this. Let's talk again soon. Bye.